We're going to be interviewing Tennessee State Representative Courtney Rogers, who has something of a similar story to that Mr. Smith goes to Washington, although she goes to Nashville might be more appropriate. Representative Rogers, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Tim with Ed, Representative Rogers. It's going to be hard not to call you Courtney.
That's fine.
If we do that, we mean no disrespect. But anyway, you've earned your title there as representative. Where do you live?
I live in Sumner County in Tennessee.
Is that near Nashville, obviously?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Well, we read about your story in Citizen magazine.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, and so the reason we wanted to have you on was basically to tell folks that they can make a difference, like you found your road to making a difference in our society as a Christian first, as a patriot, as someone who cares about the future of our country and the future of your state there in Tennessee. So tell us a little bit about your, Ed mentioned Mr. Washington. Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Tell us your Mr. Smith goes to Washington story.
Oh, well, it started out completely different. Now, I don't know, I am retired military. You might know that. So my father was a Marine, and I had grown up, with love of country. And, I went through my whole military career. And, back in those days, you had the Cold War. And so, I studied totalitarian regimes quite heavily. But what do you do with a retired soldier? You look from outside and you start looking within. And I didn't really care for what I saw. And, things like, the control of speech, especially in the pulpit. The redistribution of wealth, increased hostility or forced secularization, intolerance of religion. And this in a nation that was founded on the basis of religion. So I went on a one-woman quest, I guess at the encouragement of friends, and it did evolve. I started with prayer. Prayer led to speaking, and then I developed a seminar called Foundations of Liberty, and it really had been my goal to inspire other Christians or other people to get involved in politics. But the more I spoke, the more people, were pointing at me to run. And so at that point, it really became a walk of obedience because that was far out of my zone. So I just followed and agreed to run, and here I am. So that's a very short story, I guess.
Well, Courtney, let us delve just a little bit deeper into that story if we can, because okay. You were invited to pray at City Hall, and we have that event coming up. The National Day of Prayer and meet at City Hall, those kind of things this week. But you were invited to pray at City Hall during the 2009 National Day of Prayer. And according to this article in Citizen magazine, that kind of lit the fuse for the rocket that took you to Nashville and who knows where else.
It really did. What happened was, and that City Hall was very tiny, and there were about 50 people there, and it was a completely new experience for me. I had done this prayer, and I ended up being the last man standing at City Hall because these people kept coming to me and saying, you need to get on radio, you need to get on television, you need to go to Washington and tell them these things. And I said, I'm retired now, I'm just a mom. And before I knew it, all of those things had happened. I was invited to Washington, D.C., just with a friend to watch. It was like the first 9/12 event out there. And I was literally a walk-on to open the event. It was not planned, and I gave the prayer there, and someone had YouTubed me. And that's when I started getting invitations. I got invited to speak in Alabama, and I actually went home to Hawaii and spoke. And you're right. That one prayer was the fuse.
Well, why do you care about politics?
Well, I heard David Barton speak once, and he made a very interesting comment, and it stayed with me, that our government is a stewardship blessing, just like our homes, just like our families, just like our wealth. and we need to care for it. And, that's part of why it's so important, because, you made a comment before, like how other people can make a difference. A lot of Christians like to speak as if their belief system makes them above politics. And, that's really not the right attitude. You don't separate yourself from it. You don't block it out, because the reason perhaps we have so much corruption or turning in the wrong direction of government right now is because we are not engaged. We are not, we don't have enough people at school board or in the county commission or the city commissions, or state and even national level that can interpret things through, let's say, God's filter, through our spiritual, context. So that's why I think it's very, very important that more people need to stand up. I really kind of look at ignorance as being the absolute enemy of liberty. And there's two sides. Ignorance, what I often speak about is that ignorance has two offspring, one being apathy, the other being arrogance. And they feed each other. Arrogance, I look more to the man tyrants, the men and women, I guess, that wish to be in control, wish to take over. They're aggressive. They seek your compliance. And they are being fed by those that are, apathetic, that just want to be left alone to watch Sunday night football with their remote and let the world go by. And, arrogance will never stop unless someone stands up, and takes interest.
We're talking to State Representative Courtney Rogers from the Goodlettsville, Tennessee area. She serves in the Tennessee State Legislature and got inspired, as you mentioned, by one of your inspirations was David Barton, who is our good friend. He's our good friend and has inspired literally hundreds, if not thousands, of Christians to go into government, whether on a local level or a state level or even a national level. And so her story, Courtney's story, is found in Citizen Magazine, March of 2013. Ed?
Yeah, Courtney, let me ask you this. You talked about wanting to get into to politics to make a difference. Now, of course, you ran in the primary as a Republican. You went up against Deborah Maggart, who was Republican Majority Chairman. This was in the 2012 primary. And according to the Citizen Magazine piece, the Republican establishment opposed you. They kind of closed ranks behind Deborah Maggart. And so
that's the way that works.
This is happening more and more often in the conservative movement. Let's say that, as expressed in Republican politics. You have establishment good old boys and good old gals, I guess is the way to put it, who want things to stay the same. And then you have what seems to me to be true conservatives, and they're the outsiders.
Right. Yeah, there was a bit of that. And, kind of what I was talking about, arrogance, and I have met many fine people in the GOP, so, don't worry about that. But tyranny can come from, we talk about balance for a reason. Tyranny can come from far left or far right. On the left, you have the communism, socialism. On the far right, you have those, of an aristocratic mindset, and control. That's why, we have two wings, as they always talk about our eagle. You have to keep things in balance. And who gets forgotten most of the time is most of us in the middle. And I don't mean middle as in compromising our values, but we have a large, fairly conservative middle, a huge group. And I think this, you call the divide et impera, divide and conquer, and you've got the extremes really working hard to, I guess, in their way to distinguish themselves. What's happening is they're dividing our countries just so badly.
Well, listen, this is your story is. We wanted to have you on because there may be people out there listening who say, if Courtney Rogers can do this based on going up against one of the powerful incumbents in the Tennessee State Legislature, and she wins, and maybe I can do this. So go ahead.
if I may talk to that for a minute, you know, at first, I think you even talk about it in the magazine, I had ignored the call for a while. You know, I just didn't feel prepared.
Go get some. You're like Moses. Go get somebody else.
Well, exactly. But you know what was very interesting to me is that my story, for many of the first termers, they call them freshmen, you know, there was a large group of us this year down at the legislature, and we all started talking, and there were many of us that have the same story. You know, we kind of ignored it at first. We said, God, surely you don't mean me. I even got a letter because of your article from another representative out of Illinois, a Representative Tom Morrison. He wrote me and said he read that article, and he said, your story is mine. And what I came to either realize or believe is that I truly believe that God is on the move. And I think that is because there are more of us actually turning back to the Lord out of fear for our nation. You know, I hear national prayers and people praying for our nation more than I've ever heard growing up. And so I truly believe that more and more are standing up. And I'd just like to encourage anybody, you know, moms, construction workers, you know, successful businessmen, everybody that even thinks they're getting that little message, you know, start looking into it now. You know, start connecting.
Well, I'm hearing more and more people say they are seriously praying for our country.
Right.
I mean, I think Christians in this country, serious Christians, are realizing the dire situation that we're in, morally, spiritually, economically, politically, and we're going to have, you know, lean on God and have His, you know, He's going to have to interfere with what we're doing to our country, and we need His help. Well, listen, Courtney, thanks so much for your time. We wish you the best and appreciate you being our guest here on American Family Radio, and we look forward maybe to talking to you again sometime real soon.
Well, thank you so much, and actually thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Focus on the family.
Okay.
Alrighty.
American Family Radio. Representative Courtney Rogers has been with us from Tennessee. We thank her for being our guest. She serves in the state legislature there in Nashville.